There are 537 school districts in Oklahoma, and while most of the largest districts have yet to open and will eventually do so with partial or total virtual learning, the bell has rung in dozens of smaller public and private schools. This week, we visited 3 of them to see how in-class learning is progressing thus far. Our school tour begins in Winona, Oklahoma. Population 500, 97 of them children enrolled in pre-K through 12th grade. These kids have been back since August 3rd, one of the earliest starting dates in Oklahoma.
We opened a week earlier than normal this year because making plans for the future if we have to go to virtual learning. Our plan was to have our students come in so our teachers can go ahead and get that transition and make that transition to virtual easier. So our students for the last week have been working on their Chromebooks, their logins, so that they're well prepared for when we go virtual.
At-home learning is already an option, and 6 students are taking advantage of it. But Schullenberger believes there are far more advantages to in-person learning.
I believe, and the staff believes, that obviously they're going to get a better education in the brick-and-mortar school system. Face-to-face interaction with their teachers. They've been out of school for 6 months, so they're not getting socialization skills, meals regularly.
Heightened social distancing and sanitation protocols are in place and being observed. So far, so good.
It is a huge advantage being in a small school. I believe our town has had 5 COVID cases.
However, if a student or teacher tests positive,
we would dismiss everyone in that classroom. If it was in one building, we would dismiss everyone out of that building. And until we got the results back, everyone would go virtual. And then after the 14 days, if everyone was healthy, they would be back into the classrooms.
All of this creates added expense, and a small district like Winona would probably not be able to absorb it without Federal CARES Act funding allocated by the state.
We've received $30,000, a little over $30,000, and then we've also used some of our general fund, and we've probably spent about $50,000 so far, purchasing additional cleaning supplies, additional staff to sanitize after school.
And in this superintendent's opinion, worth every penny.
A lot of the parents said their kids were up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning ready to come to school.
Our next stop, 33 miles to the northeast, and the nearly 6,000 students in the Bartlesville school system. We visited the high school, an Art Deco gem built in 1939, 2 days before classes resumed on Thursday.
We have right around 1,600 students. We have about 250 who have elected to go full-time online. And then we have another 150 who are going to start in a blended schedule. I guess that's at least about 1,200 students who will be in the building beginning Thursday.
LaDonna Chancellor is beginning her 9th year as principal. She anticipates and has prepared for positive COVID cases on campus.
Probably the biggest training piece that we're working on right now is the contact tracing and getting enough people trained in that process.
I love doves and flies. I would hate to meet a big one in an alleyway, but they're pretty cool looking.
Cheryl Fentress has been teaching for 38 years, and last week she learned she was one of 2 Oklahoma teachers to be honored with the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, the highest recognition possible in the United States.
It was really a nice thing. It was nice to have that validation that I made good instructional choices and that I did a good job in the classroom and that the kids were engaged.
The honor includes a $10,000 award and a week-long trip to Washington, which may or may not happen because of the pandemic. Pretty exciting way to start the new year, and yet.
My concerns are that I'm not going to be able to teach the way that I typically do. So all of these tables will have one child at them. I'm going to have to be really careful with labs and sharing equipment and lots of, making sure that kids are maintaining social distancing and wearing masks. It's got little critters. That one just looks like COVID to me. I really miss the kids in the spring. I didn't really realize how much energy I get from the kids and how much I get back from them working with them and that dynamic.
When schools closed last March, testing and evaluation also ceased. That will be different now.
Basically, we were held harmless, teachers, students, and so we didn't take grades for work. We did the best we could to engage students for that last quarter and just make sure that they were mentally, emotionally okay through that time. but that will be different this semester, and they will be required to complete it. To earn credit for the course, they'll have to earn the grade, transfers into credit. I mean, it's all required.
Our last stop, 123 miles southwest of Coyle, Oklahoma, home to 250 students pre-K through 12th.
I want to say 40 students less than what I think we had last year. That's a large number for a small school.
Superintendent Terry Zink attributes that drop in enrollment to the pandemic. Classes began on Monday and will continue in person, barring an outbreak of coronavirus.
We've got devices, third grade and up, individually for all of our students. So being able to send that home and going virtual, if need be, is certainly a real possibility. So we try and do the very best we can with the limited resources that the state and federal give us.
A federal program is helping improve internet availability in rural areas like Coyle, and the state is also providing 2 reusable masks for every student and teacher.
I think the message here at Coyle is we don't live in fear, we live in trust. We want to give the kids the very best possible education we can. We certainly don't know what the state or federal government will dictate. As long as we can, we will keep these doors open.
The 2 largest school districts in Oklahoma will begin with online learning only, and that creates a significant burden for working parents who can't stay home with their kids. Now, nonprofit groups are stepping up to help. One of those is called Bridges of Norman. It's opening its after-school community center called The Spot to high school students as distance learning begins for Norman Public Schools on August 17th.
The Spot is just an additional place to be able, again, to serve as a relief valve for Norman Public Schools and give some monitoring. We don't do instructing, but we'll do some monitoring as well as tutoring support here at this location with Wi-Fi.
While almost all, if not all, educators would prefer to be teaching in the classroom face-to-face with their students, many simply don't believe it's the prudent thing to do right now. That sentiment was voiced loud and clear at the University of Oklahoma on Monday. A handful of OU staff and professors want to see the university start the semester completely virtual, and they are also seeking greater job security during the pandemic.
No layoffs to our staff, that we want to start with tiered progressive furloughs at the highest levels of administration and athletics before any staff lose their jobs and lose their benefits during a pandemic. We want there to be no forced medical or ADA disclosure in order to be granted remote work or remote study.
OU is set to begin classes on August 24th. Masks will be required of students, staff, and professors while on campus. The university says it will transition to a 100% online format should a COVID-19 outbreak occur on campus.